I mean, he was an artist, and artists are allowed what is frequently called poetic license. So he could do both, I think. He could make a little bit of a more romantic picture than reality was. At the same time, he could bring out the harshness and reality of the situation. So I think that's part of his makeup as an artist, that he was able to do that. For instance, he talks about, I remember something that he was talking about Engels, you see. And he said he and Bob Goodman went around and, oh, that was where Engels did this, that and the other. Well, that's a load of rubbish. That's pure romance, that. You know. But on the other hand, it is true that Engels walked the streets of Salford, so, you know. In the particular, he is inaccurate, but in the broad sense, he is correct.
We've been through every weather, you and me, forever twining ourselves together till death will us part. But death is nearer than it used to be. Thoughts of time will break my heart. We know our children will take wings. Torn apart, but to know our children will grow old and die. Thoughts of time will break my heart. When our time is gone and others' time begun, our lives swept aside and others' lives about to start, then we'll join we joined our dream, my love, we joined the fear that one will be left behind, the other will depart. But we've been in love for more than 30 years. Thoughts of time will break my heart. Our dream is old, our dream is always new. The dream ever with us, it was with us from the start. The dream that all could live as lovers do. A dream coming nearer, though it always seems afar. But to die before we see our dream come true,
I'd walk through Salford at night, on a moonlight night, and see the moon reflected on the grey slates. They looked like pewter, like polished pewter, and the moon kind of rising above the city. Down Silk Street with its, past the Boots's factory, and then past the, on the other side of the mill, road, a derelict mill, kind of half vandalized, and so on, right down. And then through rows and rows of the kind of houses I lived in. And you could literally feel the sleep in those houses. You could feel, it was palpable. And I used to think, Jesus Christ, All these places filled with people like me, dreaming, you know. Why do we put up with it? Why do they put it? And I used to think that all these books I'm reading, I used to go to the library and I used to think, I'm going to write Balzac and Dostoevsky into my name, you know. And Salford was my Paris.
Galvanized by his study of the great works of literature, MacColl formed the Red Megaphones, one of a number of workers' theatre groups at the time. They performed all over the North, turning local issues into dramatic propaganda. MacColl was inspired by the political theatre of Europe, notably that of Bertolt Brecht, who was producing plays that put art directly at the service of politics. Brecht's work broke all the conventions of theatre. It was unashamedly propagandist. His characters made direct appeals to the audience's conscience. Above all, it aimed to be an accessible theatre. Like MacColl, Brecht wrote popular songs for his plays, such as Mac the Knife, realizing how potent a weapon they could be. Another young radical similarly inspired was a 19-year-old RADA graduate who went on to become one of the most influential figures in British theatre. She was also to become MacColl's first wife. In 1934, Joan Littlewood left London and headed for the industrial north.
London was full of the dregs of old imperialism. I grew up detesting Buckingham Palace red coats and the caste system. I mean, I was born on the streets. I've more or less stayed there. I didn't know anything about Manchester. If it wasn't any good, I was going to go on, leave the country, go north. To go to the place where Chartism was alive, the old stuff. I was bummed, but I was adopted for the first time in my life as part of a whole humming scene.
MacColl remembers the excitement of their meeting. Ideas form and burst and shoot like fireworks, like rockets, like brilliant Roman candles. We're intoxicated with ideas, with words, with each other, with the world, with the theatre.
Manifesto. The theatre must face up to the problems of its time. It cannot ignore the poverty and human suffering which increases every day. It cannot, with sincerity, close its eyes to the disasters of its time. Means test suicides, wars, fascism, and the million sordid accidents reported in the daily press. If the theatre of today would reach the height achieved 4,000 years ago in Greece and 400 years ago in Elizabethan England, it must face up to such problems. To those who say that such affairs are not the concern of the theatre, or that the theatre should confine itself to treading in the paths of beauty and dignity, we would say, read Shakespeare, Marlowe, Webster, Sophocles, Aeschylus, Aristophanes, Calderon, Molière, Lope de Vega, Schiller, and the rest. The Theatre Union says that in facing up to the problems of our time, and by intensifying our efforts to get at the essence of reality, we are also attempting to solve our own theatrical problems, both technical and ideological. By doing this, we are ensuring the future of the theatre, a future which will not be born in the genteel atmosphere of retirement and seclusion, but rather in the clash and turmoil of the battles between the oppressors and the oppressed. Theatre Union, the theatre of the people.
Theatre Union was a forerunner of the famous Theatre Workshop. MacColl and Littlewood formed a working partnership that was to last more than 20 years, interrupted only by the war, when MacColl joined the army and Littlewood went to work for BBC Radio. MacColl steeped himself in the great dramatists of the past and, with no formal training, began to write his own plays in which he frequently took the lead.